fire the mom and say, you got to take this kid out of here. Not because the kid is not workable, but because, Mom, you're not workable. Okay? So don't put that kind of responsibility on our kids that they have to exceed in what we think they should exceed in. Something else, too, that parents like to do in that. We want our boys to look and act like boys. Yes, that's a godly thing. But beyond that, we can't tell them what career they're going to go in. We'd like to have them follow the steps of Dad, if Dad has a good career. We'd like to see them follow the steps of, whatever. But aside from telling them, no, you are going to be a boy because that's what God made you, that's about all we can do. Same way with girls. You are a girl and you will act like a girl in our home. What you turn out as far as, you're going to be a hairdresser or a mud wrestler, or a wrestler, or a wrestler electrician, We don't have any say in what they're going to do there, and we need to let them try different things until they find what fits, without us putting our expectations on them. And a lot of times it's parents who feel like they have failed. They want their children to succeed, so they feel like they did something good.
Yeah, that's true.
No, you don't succeed on the heels of your kids. Let them succeed on their own, and you take responsibility for what you did well and what you didn't do. Make sense? All right. And boundaries have to be the same. Always. Always. If it's wrong today, it has to be wrong tomorrow. It has to be wrong in 6 months. Now, suppose that you're in a teaching in church and something that this particular church does not or does allow. Down the road, you find out that that is not a scriptural basis. I can't think of anything right off the top of my head. But should you find out down the road that there's no scriptural basis to that, it's okay to say to your child, you know what? After looking at what the scripture says about this, we might have been wrong in demanding this and this and this behavior. We're going to rethink that and go biblical. We're going to do what God says. Does that make sense? There are times when it's okay to reevaluate the boundaries, but you got to have a reason. Got to have a reason that can be explained. Otherwise, you just look like you're moving fences. And kids become terribly insecure. Insecure kids play out all kinds of crazy things. You want your kids to be crazy? Keep moving boundaries on them. Yes?
I have a question. It's about boundaries. As far as whenever I have an older brother, but whenever we lived together, when my parents were together, and my mom and dad split and everything, my brother went with my father, and I went to live with my grandparents. And so I didn't get a whole lot of time in my childhood where I played with with other kids.
To have a sibling?
Right. And so now, and I still feel really guilty about this. The boys, they were born really close together, so they had each other to play with. Claire wants me to play with her all the time. And I don't know how to do it. I feel super awkward. Like, I don't like getting down on the floor and playing Barbies and things like that. And I feel super guilty about it, that that's not something I want to do. Like, if it's something like, let's watch a show together, let's read a book, like those types of things, let's do that. Am I bad? Is that bad that I don't, is that a boundary?
No, that's when you make Jason play Barbies with her.
He does.
I could so see that. No, I'm just kidding.
He's the
He does.
artsy type.
Yeah, yeah.
they're weird.
You know what? It's okay to have different likes than our children. It's okay. That's when they need a good friendship.
Yeah.
That's when you invite McKenna over to play Barbies.
He doesn't like it.
Yeah.
I can read
That's when you say to her, honey, when you're in my house, this is the volume we allow.
She says I'm not her daddy.
And that's when you say, do you want to come back? Do you want to come back and play at my house again? A little boy, I went into the bedroom. Ben was 5, and there was no kids on our block, so it was just Ben and the little guy that I babysat for. Well, this particular day, I hear Ben talking. And I thought, oh, he has an imaginary friend. This is so fun, So I go to listen about how he's talking to his imaginary friend. And the friend has a totally different voice and answers him. I was a little bit of freaked out, going, whoa, wait a minute. So I go in there to see what this 5-year-old is doing and found out that there's this little blonde-haired, blue-eyed kid that I've never seen before, and he's in Ben's bedroom.
Oh my God.
And I'm going,
Where'd you come
hi, who are you? And he said, I live at my grandma's. And I thought, the neighborhood is full of grandmas. Which one is your grandma, you know? And so then I did find out who he belonged to. He belonged to Mrs. Smith. And he was just there for the weekend. Well, this little guy, Kyle, was his name. And when Ben said, Kyle, you want to do such and such? I thought, oh, his play friend, his little imaginary friend is Kyle. What a fun name. And then when Kyle answered, I went, whoa. Anyhow, so Kyle came over quite often when he was there with his grandparents. And so one day I come in and Kyle is just swearing like a oil field man. Yeah, and so I go in there and I say to Kyle, and this will work for your little visitors too. I walked in there and I said, excuse me, Kyle, but if you ever want to come back and play in this house again, we do not use that kind of language. Do you understand? And he said, yes, ma'am. I never had to tell him that again. Never had to tell him that again. He may not have respected his home, his family's rules and his home, but he did mine, because I said it in a voice that said, I mean it, and he knew it. So that's when you say, honey, I am not your dad, thank God. No. You can't say that. But you can say, honey, you're right, I am not your father, but you know what? I am the father of this home. And if you'd like to play in our home, then you must play by my rules. So, if you like playing with Claire, here's the rule. We don't take screaming in here. Okay? Or whatever it might be. We don't, whatever.
What if like, hypothetically, she says, I don't care.
Then you say, okay, get your stuff together. Call Mom. I'm taking you home right now.
Because then the next time, when she is allowed to come back,
Mhm.
she'll
She'll remember that. And a lot of times, see, our kids that play with kids that have no boundaries. And so they feel so much secure when they're at your house and you have boundaries. Because they can trust you. They trust you. They know that that's the rule.
So what you're saying is I don't have to play with her.
No, you don't have to play with her. In fact, you don't have to be, you do not have to be her full-time playmate. Okay? And you can say things like this, you know what, honey? I understand you would like to play Barbies, but right now you're going to have to use your own imagination and go off to your room and play Barbies by yourself. You know? Or talk Dad into playing Barbies with you when he comes home.
She tried to manipulate me.
No, a child manipulating an adult.
She said, well, you could just have me a sister, not a brother. I was like, "Claire, what if I had a boy? I don't want a boy. I wouldn't have one."
Yes. Well, that's when you say, honey, you need to talk to God about that department. Yes.
I'm gonna use that.
Yeah, careful with that too. I don't know. I could see a baby shower in here again.
No.
This could be fun.
Good.
Jason is going, I'm done with this class today.
No,
All
he's
right.
the one that wants more kids. He's weird.
Oh,
I'm like, no.
I like that kind of weird. Okay, here's our, the last two things. Ooh, I got 20 minutes, and I promised that 15. I'm going by that clock up here. Yeah, okay. When we talked earlier, Pastor mentioned something about two types of children, basically. We have attitude children and action children. Very different kids, raised in the same home, under the same guidelines and the same rules. But yet they play out differently in every situation. Now, if you have an action child, I would rather have a room full of action children. You never have to guess what they're thinking, what they're doing. They think it, they do it, kind of like the dumb Labrador puppy. You don't have to think about what the Labrador puppy is thinking. He just does it and stumbles all over the house, okay? And that's kind of the way with action children. If they're out forward with what their misbehavior is. The thing with action children is they demand to be disciplined right now because their action is so blatantly seen, they better be disciplined right away. Otherwise, it becomes chaotic in the home. Okay? So action children are easy to read, but they have to be disciplined immediately, and it needs to be controlled immediately, okay? Here's the one that becomes more difficult, and that is a attitude child. Tricia, child number 2, was an attitude child. She was a rule follower right up to the edge of the rule. And she was always right there on the edge to where you want to go, okay, I know this is disobedient, but I can't really call her on it because she didn't step over that boundary. Yeah, and they know. Your attitude children are very smart and they're very clever at trying to get away with things without actually breaking the rule. Yeah, they are. They are the world's best manipulators. They can play a situation, they can play a parent, they can play teachers. And usually it's the child who to everybody else thinks they're this wonderful little child who never misbehaves. That's because nobody's looking closely enough, except for parents and teachers. I have 14 kids at the school. I can tell you which ones are action kids, and I can tell you which ones are attitude kids. And the monitors who come once a week sometimes don't know the difference because they don't get to see them every day in all the settings. I know. And so some monitors, not my 2 monitors that are here, no, these 2 are perfect. But sometimes monitors will let those attitude children get away with things just because they look like they're so compliant. And yet they're always right there at that edge, and they're defying authority to say, I dare you to call me out. Can you see what a challenge it is? Those little princesses are usually really good at that. And they're usually good at wrapping daddy. Daddy never sees that little line that they're right there at. But mommy does, yes, because mommy's with them all day long. Yeah, and it's really hard. It's really hard to find the ways to discipline an action child. But if you don't find the ways to discipline an action child, they will grow up to be...
You mean the attitude child?
I mean the attitude child, yeah. They will grow up to be the worst nightmare you've ever had. Because when they become a teenager, what do you think they're going to keep on doing? Manipulating all the adults that they can, staying as close to the line of breaking the rules without actually breaking the rules. So, you know what we used to do with Tricia? I'd say, listen, young lady, okay, that might have been the line drawn in the sand, but if you get that close again, you will be in trouble. Okay? And call them out on it. That's when you have to say, I get it. I see you think you didn't break the rules, so you should not be in trouble. I'm telling you, your attitude broke the rule, and you will be in trouble. Now you have been warned. That's it. Grandparents have a hard time defining between action and attitude children. Yes, Lisa.
How do the disciplines differ?
It's easy to discipline an action child because you can just pick them up and spank them, or, give them some, whatever, take away their privileges or whatever, depending on their age. Okay, so they're easy to deal with. They just get disciplined right away. The attitude children is the one where you have to really work to find, and then you have to find out what will work for them, because attitude children usually have this stubborn resilience. Yeah, that's it, and it is a heart issue more than anything else. But if you don't break it, the world will destroy that child. And God will never be able to move and work in that child like he could if we didn't break the will of that child.
The religious people and the sinner people that Jesus rebuked. The people that were more action-oriented was a simple rebuke. It was stop it. But attitude people, he seriously laid them open, like the Pharisees.
Who didn't break the rules? They didn't break the rules.
Dealing with an attitude child, you have to portray to them that you know exactly what they're doing in their heart, and they can't hide it. Action children can't hide it. The attitude, children think they can hide it and manipulate it, and you gotta call their bluff and say, everybody knows that, you gotta stop this now. And they'll do it through their crying, their whining, their pouting. It's control.
Even their great behavior,
Yeah.
they can suck up. Can I say that? You know what I mean? Yeah. Okay, do you understand what we're saying, though, between the difference between attitude and action? The woman at the well was an action person. All those husbands that she had, everybody knew her mistakes.
Yeah.
But Jesus didn't deal with her harshly, did he? He just called her out on what she did and said, you know, yeah, I know this, but I also know that you're hurting. I know that you're struggling, and there is forgiveness for you. He didn't have that same attitude toward the self-righteous Pharisees. He just called them vipers and snakes and stuff. Ooh, not nice.
So I'm gonna throw Lily under the bus.
Okay, throw Lily. I think she's been under that bus a couple times tonight.
Would she be considered an action child? Because you know when it's coming.
Uh-huh.
You know Lily's personality.
Yeah. Oh, Lily is easy to figure out. If you listen to her, she'll hang herself. She really will. Yeah. She tells on herself, you know, and so she's easy. She will be an easy child to deal with. You gotta be.
I mean, she listens when you discipline. Very well.
And you have to do it immediately with her, and it has to be harsh enough to get her attention, and it has to be consistent, because they like rules that don't bend.
So then Abigail's
Yes. And Emma can be a little bit of an attitude child, too.
no, I already knew that one.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Any other questions there? And then we're going to move on. Yes, Lisa. Yeah, I would say yes, because they're a little, they're not hiding something in their heart, which is hard, you know, with an attitude child. They're hiding stuff, so it's hard to tell when they're sincere and when they're for real. An action child, you know when they apologize, they mean it, or they don't. But you can tell real easily, because they don't hide well. They don't hide well. Give me an action child any day.
Yep.
Christopher,
Yeah.
action child.
Yeah, more so than Zach.
Because he has such a like, hates it, any out of boundaries or anything like that, very just, and he's my only child that as soon as I ask him, hey, did you do this thing, he'll say yes right away. And it's been killing me, you know, and then the other one's, what do you mean by that?
Yeah,
And
let's
everyone's like,
split hairs here to, yeah.
exactly.
I'm not gonna hang myself out there and
Oh, yeah,
that,
and
yeah.
I'll give you a little bit just to make you think that you're right.
Uh-huh, yeah. With Tricia, we went over her head a lot, right to God, you know. When she was a teenager, 17, 18 years old, she began to make some really bad choices, and especially when it was with this one friend of hers. And so one night she's out with this one friend, and we didn't like this at all. And so that night, when she came home, everything seemed fine, but we went to bed. I had a dream, because every night I'd go to bed, I'd pray, Lord, don't let my kids get away with anything. That had been my prayer forever. It's my prayer for my kids at school. God, don't let them get away with a thing. Don't let them get away with a thing I don't catch or don't see. And if you ask them, they think I have supernatural powers, which I do. I go over their head. But you know what? With that night with Tricia, when she came home, God gave me a dream. I saw exactly where she was at in this particular cafe. I knew exactly what her friend was wearing. I knew everything about their conversation. The next morning, when we got up, I said to her, I know what you and this girl were doing last night. And she said, what do you mean you knew what? We didn't do anything bad. So I read it to her, told her exactly what she was doing, exactly what the conversation was, who they were with. And she was like blown away. How did you know that? Were you and Dad following me? Well, right there it tells you, busted, you know. And I said, no. I prayed, and God told on you. And all the time, God would tell on her more than anyone else in our family. And it used to frustrate her. In fact, she even told her daughter one time, she said, don't lie to me, Ma, because God will tell her the truth. You know, so that needs to be our prayer as a parent. Pray that our kids don't get away with a thing, because we're going to miss it. And we got to have God's help that they don't get away with a thing, okay, for their own good. All right. Okay, here's the last one. Oh my goodness, we got to give this one a fast one. All right. I'm going to make a couple statements here. You can disagree with me. It's okay. You guys have been wrong before. Oops. I shouldn't have said it that way. And I asked God to help me be gentle. Okay, social media. Any parent that gives their child social media before they're 16 years old ought to be brought up here and shot.
I'll shoot.
Well, and here's the reason why. Here's the reason why. There are so many things, and it's like everything that comes out and looks like this wonderful gift to society. And then after it's been out a while, we find all of the evils to it.
Yeah.
Joel's dad used to say, television is going to be the ruination of the United States. And everybody mocked him. I'm sorry, but he was a lot closer to right than we'd like to believe. You know, there were people that came out and said, social media is going to be the destruction of the United States. I'm afraid they were closer to right than what we'd like to believe sometimes. And so with social media, here are some of the most evil things. Aside from the fact that it gives your child access to stuff you do not want them to be a part of. They are too young to be involved in this huge world that they have no experiences. What do they call it? They call it artificial maturity. We have a whole society of young people that have an artificial maturity. They think they're mature because they know all the things on social media. Yeah. They think they're mature because they have this great wisdom about electronics. They have zilch when it comes to life experiences. Yeah. And so what do they really have? Are they mature? No. That's why you have 13-year-olds that think they're in love and then they're brokenhearted when it doesn't work. Good Lord, it shouldn't work at 13. And any parent who puts their child out there to have a relationship at 13 ought to be shot. Because all you're doing is setting them up. They don't have the emotional experience to know what it is to be in love, much less how to be brokenhearted. Every child ought to get a broken heart 4 or 5 times before they find Mr. Right. They ought to. It ought to be an experience of life. Oh, well, I don't want to go with that kind of guy because look how mean he was. Look how evil he was. Look what he didn't end up being like what I thought. Yeah, children should never be exposed to stuff out there that they get exposed to in social media.
So what if I'm monitoring it? Like I only let her follow certain things.
Okay.
Like she has one guy she follows Christian stuff on there, or she does cooking videos, or she likes to play like video games, like classic video games. She'll only follow pages like that, and I check her page regularly, or I take her phone and I check them.
And that you're doing better than most parents do.
Okay.
That's a good job. But let me tell you a horror story. You ready? This is a for real story that happened to somebody that's one of our relatives. It's not one of my grandchildren, because I would have gone out and killed somebody had this happened to one of my grandkids. But somebody within our extended family has an 11-year-old little girl. Mama of this 11-year-old girl is a tech whiz. She is sent all over the United States to correct huge businesses and their computers. She can do anything on computers that you can figure. Well, this 11-year-old is a latchkey child, and so she had a phone given, she had to have a phone because she would be home, for a couple hours before the adults got there. And so she had a phone. Makes good sense, right? So Mama has set all of the parent guides. She understands the phone completely. She understands social media. She understands all the pitfalls because she deals with them all day long. So she is doing her job as a parent. One night, at 11 o'clock at night, Mama gets a ding on her phone, and she looks. And it's the child's phone saying they need more time, because she had a time limit for her kids to be able to use the phones just a certain amount of time. So it has a time limit. So she marches in there and she says to the child, "What are you doing up? 11 o'clock at night. What are you still doing up, and why are you on your phone, and why is it asking for more time?" Well, of course, the child comes up with some lame excuse. Mom grabs the phone and threatens her within an inch of her life and says, "You better get to bed now. and you're grounded from this phone for X amount of time. Mom takes the phone back into her room, and Mom goes through the same settings that she put on this phone. She goes through the same things that she allowed this child, all the, guards and everything. She goes in there and she found that there was one little portal that 30-something men had been following this 11-year-old. And that one of them that night was, and some of this is, I'm sorry, it's real graphic, but I think we need to hear it straight out. One of them wants to meet with this 11-year-old, and the little girl says, okay. Mom has found out that this little girl has sent pictures because this one man, 30-something men have been following this little girl online. This one man asked for pictures. An 11-year-old, she has no concept of what is right or wrong or healthy or unhealthy. She's just a little girl looking for love and attention. And she thinks she's found it. And this man asked for pictures, and she sent pictures of herself. First of all, they were just benign pictures. And then he kept asking for more specific type pictures. And she would send it, not knowing that he was a 35-year-old man. And then he asked, when are your parents going to be home? And so she tells him what time her parents get home. And he said, can we meet tomorrow afternoon before your parents get home? And she said, yes. Gives him her address. And then ask her, you know why I want to meet you, don't you? She says yes. Whether or not she actually knew, I don't know. She said yes. The guy says to her, now you do realize the first time you have sex, it's really going to hurt. I'm telling you, if it had been my grandchild, I would be in jail tonight because I would have gone to find that person and I would have killed him. And this is a mom who thought she knew everything she was doing was safe and careful. And this is an 11-year-old little girl who is in church every Sunday, every Wednesday night. Her parents are assistant youth pastors. So I don't know if there is a parent out there that really can control this demonic thing. No, it happens all the time. And the horror stories are unbelievable. We had one of the girls at our school a few years back that was sending pictures to and from. And when I found out about this, I took them into the office and found out there was another little girl involved. So 2 of our little girls were sending pictures to somebody unbeknownst. So I called the parents and I said, I need to call the police, not to get your girls in trouble, but to get this man stopped. Yeah. So I did. I called the police. Our policeman came over and he sat and he talked to the girls. And I don't know how many of you know this, but at that particular time, and it's been several years ago now, but at that particular time, they were just investigating a 9-year-old little girl whose body had been found in our community that had been sexually abused, and they were trying to figure out who and why. Yeah. It happens, and we think it will never happen to our kids. No, if you believe that, you are delusional. You really are. That's why they should not have this. No more. They should not have social media any more than you should give them the keys to your car. Because until they're ready to drive your car because they have the experience, the training, and the know-how, why would you give them a 5,000-pound weapon? Why would you give your child a weapon that's going to let somebody come and violate her? I worked for a short time at a 7-Eleven. In the afternoon, undercover policeman came in and he said, who's the shift manager tonight? And I said, I am. And he said, okay, about 7 o'clock, he said, there's going to be all kinds of police presence here in the parking lot. Don't come out. Any customers that are in here, don't let them come out till I tell you it's okay. Don't come to the door. And I said, okay. Sure enough, 7 o'clock comes. The place lights up with police cars. I don't go out the door because I'm a rule follower. But I did look down the window, and at the end of our sidewalk there was 3 steps. And I saw a man sitting there with his handcuffed, his hands behind his back. He's sitting on the step, and there were 6 policemen with their guns pulled right at his head. And then he was gone. All the lights cleared out, everything went back to normal. The next afternoon, the same undercover policeman came in, and he said, the car that was left here last night belonged to that man. I said, man, that's a really cool car. It was like a Charger or something, a new, nice little car, you know. I said, that's a really cool car. And he said, well, come to the next police impound, you can buy it. And I said, can I ask what happened? And he said, yeah. That man was 30-something years old. He thought he was coming here to meet a 12-year-old. The 12-year-old was an undercover cop online who trapped him. It happens, and parents don't believe it can happen to their child. But when it does, it's too late.
Yeah.
It's too late.
Ms. Rose, I had this situation happen with me Sunday last Sunday night after Easter.
Mhm.
Police came to my house at 11:30 at night. They were looking for someone, not him,
Mhm.
his friend.
Mhm.
You know, called him by his first name and said his last name, and I was responding. Well, they got the last name right, the first name got it wrong.
Mhm.
So he's like, I was sent out here because there was either a suicidal attempt, suicidal ideation, or a suicidal action or something.
Mhm.
He mentioned two different things. I got freaked out. He's just like, I need you to wake up your son now.
Mhm.
And he's like, hey. Well, come to find out that his friend, the one talking about, they were sending pictures back and forth. And
Mhm.
it was nothing to do with suicide or anything. But I was beyond amazed, and this just happened through Snapchat.
Mhm.
I couldn't see the pictures because they were cleared out.
Yeah,
on the
they
phone.
disappear almost as quickly as they're there. Mhm.
But I was able to recover some of the stuff, because, you know, there were screenshots and other little things that happened. But things just happened so quickly, so friend and me were actually texting at around 9:30, 9:40, something like that. Or 10:35, sheriff called my phone, but I was already asleep, so I didn't hear it.
Mhm.
He called me like 3 times,
And then he showed up at the door.
and then he showed up at my door.
Yeah. Well, and with this little girl situation, you know how he got contact with her? Through a gaming site. She was playing games. Yeah. You think those games are benign? Think again. Think again. Yeah. So until your child has enough reasoning and experience to know what is healthy, what isn't healthy, you just telling them what is healthy and what isn't healthy won't buy it. They have to experience, they have to have enough life experiences behind them to where they can handle some tough situations.
Yeah, speaking like specifically about the game stuff, we had a Nintendo, Xbox, and a VR, and two of those things are hooked up to the internet, and I end up hearing Claire one day, and I've been very specific, if there's ever a chat function or anything like that, it gets disabled immediately or it gets taken away. I don't care who does it or when it happens. And Claire was sitting on the couch and she was playing on the Xbox and everything like that, and it was Minecraft or Roblox or something like that. And she like was talking to somebody, and I'm like, Claire, who are you talking to? And she says, my friend. Well, I don't know who that is. What are you talking about? You know, like, how are you talking? So
And this is
I'm
a
terrible,
6-year-old,
terrible.
7-year-old.
She was 6 at the time.
6,
And I'm terrible with technology, so that's why it was, as soon as I heard about it, it's taken away. But what do you mean you're talking? Well, it's my friend. You know, we play together, and, you know, it's a young girl. I said, Claire, you don't understand. I said, no, turn the thing off. I said, boys, take that thing out. Y'all don't get to play it anymore. It's out. But it's so insidious. It happens so quick without even, like, it's so easy for them to get into this stuff, and it's so frustrating. But it's like, sorry, you don't get to play this thing.
Yeah.
Like, you don't understand that there are.
Yeah.
You don't understand that this might seem like this is just a normal person, but people, like, they have things that change people's voices. You know, like, you don't understand what can happen to people. And this, I think it's the sex trafficking industry is the largest, like, grossing economy in And the number one, I believe, is the United States, of the buyers of the sexual trafficking and things like that. And it's happening more and more and more every day, and it's so terrifying. They can get at you from every which way, and they will poison your children as
Yeah.
quick as possible.
Well, you know what? And that would be the devil who would rob from us the joy of having our children. But it is a full-time job, and why make it harder on ourselves? Why make it harder? I think if you have a latchkey child and you have to have a phone, go back to a landline. You know, go back to a line that doesn't have internet. Do you know it's becoming a popular thing again? There are more calls for landlines right now than there have been in years. And I think it's because parents are just getting fed up with all the stuff that is out there on the internet. And so you got to do what you got to do. And you know what? It may make your child feel unpopular at school because everybody else has it. You know what? I don't give a rip what the rest of the world thinks. I don't give a rip what the rest of their friends have. My job is to watch you. You're my child. You're my gift from God.
What about high school student with a phone but no social media?
I was going to say, if you have to have a phone, get the old flip phone that does nothing but call.
And text?
Call and text. Yeah, and it's okay if you limit, if you limit it to who she can call and who she can text. Yeah.
Erin has an iPhone, so if I go home and delete her Instagram account, she's totally connected, or whatever. She'll be the most hated mom in the world.
Yeah,
For a little
yeah,
while.
for a little while.
She'll be right.
Yeah.
But what would I do? Like, we bought it for her. I don't want to just be like, oh, psych, and then take it away. Just
Well, you might go, you know what? Based on the new information I have, this thing is evil. Yeah, you just got to tell her, I got better information, I got more information. Then let her sell it online and let her have the money. See, sometimes though, we have to be careful because we parents want our children to be as popular as our children want to be. We want our children to like us. We think we want our children to be popular. No, that's not it.
Let me add this, we gotta close.
Yeah, we do. I'm going to be calling your phone.
The initial first command was to men and then to women. And men are first responsible in your home to bring fruitfulness and multiply and take dominion, which is the word to guard. If you don't guard your home, then whatever happens in your home is you are to blame.
It is your fault, dads.
Everything that goes on, from the lack of discipline, the lack of purpose, the clarity of values, the clarity of honoring one another.
Respect.
First responsible is the man. Women are responsible too, but men are first. You're gonna say something, Bruce?
No, he was just saying, yep.
Oh,
Yeah. And when you,
yeah.
yes,
Oh,
yeah. And we can't discipline our children in areas that we refuse to discipline us
Amen. Yeah.
because it comes off phony even to us. All right. All right, we got to close. All right, this is for